My computer has been giving me headaches, and I don't know if we're talking about the fusion centers or what's happening now. But hey, my guest is JB Campbell, and I've got up on my website some of the things. I've even had a little problem getting on to one of yours, the with the plan. It hasn't been. I wasn't able to connect today, but I haven't been able to connect to a lot of things. So I don't know whether it's my computer or your site.
Hmm. You mean the American Defense Party?
Yes, sir. The American Defense Party. I've got I've got that featured in 2 or 3 places on my site because I really believe that you're right on about that. You know, I just talked with, I just listened to a show that was done with Jesse Ventura, and he says he is if he's running for president, he's planning on running for president, and if he got it, he would be the first president since George Washington that wasn't a member of the Republicans or Democrats, which I refer to as two wings of the same bird, and the bird's a fucking vulture, it ain't an eagle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And what is happening now, you say, and I've got this up on my site, I've got your words up on the site, that we're under deadly attack by federal forces, the NSA, FBI, ATF, DEA, TSA, and other secret police agencies. 73 federal agencies that have militarized SWAT teams with the license to kill us. And, you know, 10 years ago, I filmed the first Homeland Security briefing at Sandia Labs in Albuquerque, and made a film out of it called The True Face of FEMA. And they said, oh, in case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, an atomic attack, or a natural disaster of significant magnitude, like an earthquake along the New Madrid fault line, which would turn the whole central United States into another Fukushima. We'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops to control the American people, because some of them just won't follow orders. You know shit, Sherlock. Some of us won't line up on the Walmart parking lot to get a vaccination for a disease that's been eradicated in the United States for 100 years or more. So, and he's asked, oh, are you talking about the National Guard, Colonel John Brinkerhoff? Well, FEMA. Oh, no, they're too expensive. We'll need a cheap source of well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops. And I ask, what are they talking about? The Chinese Rapid Strike Force, the Russians Rapid Strike Force in the UN, or all of the few million illegal aliens that are here that can get their citizenship if they've joined the army. What do you think?
Maybe they're talking about, Obama's parallel paramilitary organization that he threatened us with back in '08. I don't know.
Well,
I don't think the Chinese thing would work too well here.
Probably not too easily identified. The Russians could blend right in, just like the Germans do in Alamogordo.
Mm-hmm.
I run into some of their bike clubs up in Rio Doso and in Alamogordo.
Yeah, I just don't think they're pretty afraid. Everybody's been afraid of trying to occupy this country, and even our traitors in FEMA and DHS are deathly afraid of us. They just don't know how to pull this off. They definitely want to do it, but doing it is a whole different matter. And our job is to liberate our people so that they are immediately and instantaneously willing to drop the hammer on these traitors, whether it's roadblocks or home invasions or any kind of federal terror. This is our job, is to arm them mentally. Everybody is armed. You know, this is the most heavily armed on earth, I think, probably even more so than Switzerland or Israel. We just got, it's unbelievable.
Well,
but
what happened?
We have the will to use them.
What happened in Boston? I mean, when we had all these SWAT teams looking for one teenager after they killed his brother, that's they went right door to door. They went into people's homes without any justification, without any warrants, nothing, and nobody did a damn thing. Have we been made into sheeple? Such a sheeple? We just follow orders now?
I think honestly, those people in Boston got sucker punched. You know, with the shock of the bombing. Now we know. Now we know what can happen. That was, you know, a beta test for the people of Boston, but it actually put us on notice of what we can expect now. And I was kind of ashamed of the Bostonites for submitting to that martial law for the day or 2 days, whatever, however long it lasted. But okay, so let's just go on from there. We know what the plan is. We see this insane gaggle of thugs coming up the sidewalk with their stupid 223 rifles aimed in all directions. They're like a gaggle of geese going along the sidewalk. They have no clue what they're doing except show of force. And you got the guys in camouflage on the armored personnel carriers with 50 caliber machine guns aiming at people's upstairs windows. I mean, it's totally insane. But okay, so now we know what to expect. Nobody fought back in Boston, but now we know. So let's just go on from there and be ready. Now, if this happens again, if there's an attempt to disarm us again, now we don't have any excuse for failing, because now we know. And if we see this type of thing developing in the neighborhood, well, we have to have immediate action drills. We have to be prepared mentally to attack these guys. They have to be killed. Anybody that would do this to us is a traitor. You know, they were going into people's houses, as you say, bringing them out at gunpoint with their hands up, going and looking for guns. They weren't looking for that kid. They were looking for people's guns. So our job now is to go on from there. So thank you very much. Thank you for putting us on notice. Thanks for the beta test. From this time on, we're going to kill you if you even try this treachery again anywhere in America.
Well, it's you know, it's certainly they've been planning on this for 10 years. I mean, this may be the reason they tried to kill me back in 2004, because I had just come out with this video. I'd just come out with a video on the true face of FEMA, where I filmed that Homeland Security meeting at Sandia Labs, and they were maybe they were really upset about that. I mean, you know, are you talking about the National Guard, Colonel? No, they're too expensive. Now we need a cheap source of well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops. to control the American people that won't follow orders. This is what I've tried to warn people about, and what I've been saying for almost 20 years now, is that they are doing to us what they did to the Russian people. The Russian people were never our enemies. Remember in the 70s, the Russians are coming, the Russians are coming. I mean, that was more of the Zionist, Jewish propaganda to make us fear the Russians. I mean, I don't believe the Cold War. Now Colonel Brinkerhoff, he said that we're in for a war. It's a long war. It could be longer than the Cold War. I think the Cold War was a scam. I mean, that was you got to be afraid of the Russians, not the communists, and not the Jewish communists. The Russian people that Stalin murdered 60 million of them. That was white Christian Russians. Why do Americans just think it just can't happen here? It is happening here.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do we do about it? And that's where we come in. We can't just complain about this thing anymore. It's what Alex Jones and all these other fearmongers do is psych us out. You listen to Alex Jones a little bit, and you realize whatever his motive is, and I'm not really sure what his motive is. He's very competent at what he does. He's got a great photographic memory. He can drag up facts and figures from an encyclopedia in his head. But he and the others, the fearmongers, offer no program for victory. There's no response. There's no plan given. And his listeners, the people who listen to him all the time, must be in a state of terror and total demoralization. It's as if he's working for Homeland Security or the ADL to psych us out, because he tells true and horrible facts about the government, what the government is doing, never what the Jews are doing. Of course, he protects the Jews, which appears to be his mission. But he does a hell of a job of scaring people with the facts of what the government is doing. But if you don't combine that, and it's legitimate, totally legitimate to list the crimes of government, totally. But you must combine that with a recommendation. I think honestly, we shouldn't be allowed to complain unless there is a recommendation attached to the complaint. It is our responsibility now not to scare the bejeebers out of people, but to strengthen them with a plan.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's part of it. I mean, there's two plans here that the enemy is using against us. One is to divide and conquer. Oh, it's the Nazis! It's the Nazis! Be afraid, be afraid. And matter of fact, they're just doing that right now. Even Wolf Spirit sent me a link. Somebody was trying to demonize J.T. Reddy, and somebody's trying to demonize Rick Light, who started RAM, W-R-A-M. And J.T. Reddy was a Nazi, and Rick Light is an FBI informant. Now, where's that's coming from? How much is that what is that going on? What's true? What's not? We don't know. Can't tell. I mean, they ran me out of Tucson based on a lie. Oh, Clay's selling that book, Mystery Babylon, to raise money for a snitch named Huevos. Huh, don't know any snitch named Huevos. Sell the book to raise money for Clay Douglas. That's it. That's it. But all of a sudden, I couldn't go to any biker runs without somebody wanting to beat me up. Well, you put somebody's husband in jail. You put your snitch friend, put somebody. I don't know any snitches, and I certainly don't support them. So is that what's being done to Rick Light? Is that what was done? I mean, I've even had people on my show that talked about Ted Gunderson, and I knew Ted, and I don't think he was. I think he was trying to do the right thing, but other people are trying to say, oh, he was doing this, he was doing that, he was selling rubber, he was molesting children, he was doing all of this. So, I mean, how do we even know? How do we find the truth? I mean, there ain't nobody living in this fifth wheel with me. Nobody, not anymore anyway. They managed to run all those people off, any support that I had. And is that what they're trying to do to Rick Light? And is that somebody killed J.T. Reddy, but they're trying to say he committed suicide and killed his family? I just don't think so. I don't think that happened.
Yeah, I don't know Rick Light, but I remember J.T. Reddy. I thought, I mean, I didn't know about the guy until after he was killed, but I do believe he was murdered, and I think he was a pretty decent guy from what I can surmise.
What about this 4th of July patriot? I mean, you know, that's they put him in prison, charged him with working with his working with the. They tried to say he molested his daughter, and then I've had people come on saying they're raising money for him. He says he never got any money. Rick Light was trying to help him, and then somebody says Rick Light's a snitch working for the FBI. It's pretty incredible.
You know, I brought up Gunderson. I interviewed him one time. What was it? Well, I interviewed him in Southern California. He was with his girlfriend at the time, whose son was in that McMartin preschool thing, and Jackie McCauley. And I was asking Gunderson about homosexuality in the FBI, because I was writing for National Educator back then out of Fullerton. And he told me in the interview, and I had a buddy with me, he said that homosexuality is rampant in the FBI. So
All right.
Okay.
Morning, Clayton. It's Dale.
Hey, Dale. Okay, I got you. I've got JB up on my other line there, so just connect us with Crusade, and we'll be fine here.
Calling him now.
All right, sir.
All right. It's ringing.
All right. All right. We got Wolf Spirit up now, and Crusade. All right. Thank you, Dale. I appreciate that. I believe you can hear JB. All right. We got two other.
Yeah.
Okay,
JB, we're all right now.
We're getting some heavy distortion in my end, but anyway, I sent the article, the essay to Gunderson, and he freaked out. He called me and said, "I never said that. I said, what are you talking about? He's rampant in the FBI.
Hang on, Dale, can you bring JB up on your end?
All right, I got the, oh, jeez, hold on here.
He's got a phone number. You should have, actually, I believe we got you on Skype. You got him on Skype, don't you?
Have him send me a message.
JB, can you get Wolf Spirit switchboard? You got that up on your Skype?
Yeah, somewhere here.
Send him a message, and so he can find you.
Yeah, that way I can narrow in.
It's
All right, so this other phone number here in your group, you want me to hang up on that?
No,
Bar
well,
Crusade.
I'm on Blog Talk, and I got JB on. Maybe we shouldn't even mess with it. You can hear him, I believe. Everybody ought to be able to hear him. I'm in the chat room, and nothing's been working right on mine, so we should.
Well, if he Skypes me, I could drag him right into the call there on Skype.
Okay, because I've got him up on a whole different computer right now. So, JB, if you want to send Wolf Spirit Radio a message, he can bring you up there. And if there's a distortion, then I'll drop you off of this line. Meanwhile, I'll keep you on here. It's I think things are heating up. You know, they're basically afraid. Somebody's pointed out that we've got more hunters in one state than Red China's got troops. And that's I think that's accurate. But whether or not the hunters will understand what they got to do and stand up to the plate. Everybody's afraid. They're afraid that the cops are going to come after them, and they still haven't realized that the cops, they don't even get to be a cop if they've got a IQ anywhere near yours or mine. All right, now we got you up on the other one here.
Okay, how's that?
Sounds good to me. I don't know. I got you up on two channels here, so it's but it's all coming in okay for me.
Okay. Shall I carry on?
Yes, sir. Carry on. Carry on. You got the ball. Run with it.
Okay, so anyway, Gunderson called me and raised hell and said he never said that about homosexuality in the FBI. I said, well, that's damn sure what you told me. Well, so he called Jim Townsend, the publisher of the National Educator, and raised hell with him. Said, and he told me before he hung up, he said, I've called Judge Sessions. William Sessions was the director of the FBI at the time. I told him that you're a liar. I never said that about the FBI. Okay, whatever, I said. I get the picture here. So he called Townsend and said he wanted it not to run. Townsend said, if you don't like it, you can write a letter to the editor. So Gunderson was a Jekyll and Hyde. I think he did some good work with on that Franklin cover-up deal and some other things. But my very dear friend Sherry Seymour, investigative reporter, and she knew Gunderson, and she wrote a book, an online book called The Last Circle. It's online for free, The Last Circle. And she described this company. Well, it was called The Company. It was made up of a bunch of government guys like Robert Booth Nichols, a CIA guy, Ted Gunderson, and other people. They stole the Promise software from the owners, the Hamiltons, Bill and Nancy Hamilton. Ed Meese was in it, the Reagan, whatever Ed Meese was, chief of staff or whatever. And they stole this Promise software. Promise was PROMIS, Prosecutors Management Information System or something like that. They put a back door in it. They sold it all over the world. They put a back door in it that allowed them to spy on the governments of all the countries in Europe, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And then Israel got it, and they put another back door in it, so they were spying on everybody. Gunderson was part of this, and they had their company headquarters on the Cabazon Indian Reservation down by Palm Springs. And they were dealing in drugs and guns and biological warfare, stolen nuclear stuff. It was really, really nasty. And Sherry had a note from Gunderson saying, if you expose this, we'll kill you. So, as I say, he was a Jekyll and Hyde. And, you know, anybody that's an FBI has got to be held in suspicion. I mean, I can't really think of anybody who could be trusted who was in this America's #1 terrorist organization. This FBI is the most diabolical organization in America, by far. It has done so much damage to us. Look at what happened in New York, the World Trade Center bombing in 1993.
Yeah, the first one, all organized by the FBI. You know, they ran me in one of their publications, official FBI publication, and called Guide to Right-Wing Extremists. And they had me in there. I made 2 phone calls. The first to the governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson. The second to the chief of police, who was listed in there, the chief of the New Mexico State Police. And they both said, don't worry about it, Clay. The second call to the chief of police said, don't worry about it, Clay. The governor recalled all those booklets. So I was safe, I felt, at the time, in New Mexico. I felt like I had some good friends there, because I put the Free American out. When I put it in hard copy, I put it in the mailbox of every senator, every representative at the Roundhouse in Santa Fe, every month. And the chief of the state police told me, Clay, I've been reading your magazine for 10 years. You don't have any problem with me or any of my men. I said, yeah, well, what about the cop in Podunk, Alamogordo that pulls me over and thinks I'm some kind of dangerous person? You know, what are they trying to do, arrange death by cop? Clay, the governor recalled all those booklets. And a little while later, I did walk into the FBI office in Albuquerque and dropped a bundle of magazines down and told the agent, I just wanted you to have one of these for every FBI agent in here. I just wanted you guys to know who I am. And he said, oh, we know who you are, Clay. We know who you are. But the moral of the story is that I walked out. I was able to walk out. So if I'm such a dangerous right-wing extremist, why would they let me walk out of the FBI headquarters?
Well, you hadn't committed a crime. There was nothing to arrest you for.
That's right. That's right.
Well, imagine, though, now today, the situation we're in, where the FBI goes down to Orlando to interview a friend of the late Sardaev, the elder brother from Boston, Ibrahim Todashev, and they interview him for hours, and then all of a sudden they shoot him 7 times, 6 times in the body and once in the head during interrogation. This is where we are now with the FBI. So there was this guy, Lane Cooper, in I think he's in Tucson. I'm not sure. I don't know. He's in Arizona someplace. And he got online a couple of months ago and wondered online, I think it was on policestate.com, if we are in fact in a police state now. The answer was quick to come. The local police department called him. Said, can you come down to the office? What for? The FBI wants to talk to you. What for? You know, the thing you wrote on policestate.com. So he went to the, I can't remember the name of the town in Arizona, but anyway, he went to the PD, submitted to the FBI questioning for about 45 minutes, he said. And then they said, well, it's a good thing you came in, because if you hadn't, we'd be kicking down your door tonight at 3 in the morning. So,
my advice is, you know, I don't ever complain without a recommendation. So my advice here is that if any of us gets an order from the PD or from the FBI to come down for a discussion, you say no. You say, well, I mean, we'll arrest you. We'll go ahead and try. But I'm not coming down to talk to you guys because, number one, I would be in danger of being accused of lying to the FBI, which is a felony. And number two, I am in danger of being shot like Ibrahim Todashev during interrogation. So talk to my lawyer, but I'm not talking to you. And if you try to force me to talk to you, I will kill you. This is the only way to deal with these guys. Believe me, I've been doing this now for about 45 years, and I'm still here to talk about it. Doesn't mean they're not going to kill me tomorrow, or you, or any of us, but we got to live like men on our feet, and we don't get on our knees for these guys. This is war. We're in a deadly, deadly war, and they mean to be like deadly. So we can only respond and beat into the punch, because they're not legal, they're not lawful, they're not nothing. They're a bunch of bums with guns that we gave them. Everything they have, we gave them.
Let me get a comment from you. Let me get a comment from you on that, because I think this is pretty important. That they haven't taken our guns away. But they are doing that. They are doing gun confiscations in California and New York. And the Forest Service, the IRS, Homeland Security has 1 billion rounds of ammo, and now they're trying to stop us from being able to make bullets. We got to import our lead from a foreign country. They're trying to take away the ammo right now, and what they haven't already bought to keep us from getting it. I mean, I haven't gone out to try to buy any .40 caliber bullets, but I understand they're not around. What about that? Shouldn't that be a warning flag to everybody? I mean, my God, when Homeland Security, which is nothing more than a KGB here, when they've got enough bullets to kill every American, put at least a half a dozen in every living, breathing American, shouldn't that worry us? I mean, you can't even, we're not even supposed to use hollow point ammo in war. Of course, we haven't had a real war since World War II. It's all been police actions.
Well, if they haven't destroyed all that ammo that they bought, if they're actually hoarding it, then we have to liberate it. It's ours. We pay for it. It's all ours. So one of the aspects of our party, one of our activities, has to be to liberate all ammunition that has been, perhaps by the DHS, or if it hasn't been destroyed, just
Yep, broke up a little bit there. Broke up a little bit.
In their hands. They can't be trusted. They are the enemy. Anyone who would try to disarm us or steal our ammunition is our deadly enemy. This gun control is treason. That's all it is.
All right, what's happened here? Lost you on that one. Should still have you here. Yeah. JB, you still there? Okay, have I got you? Yeah, I got you back here. I think I've got you back. Problem with the call. Alright, they didn't like this one. Didn't like us doing this.
Just
Okay.
continue on.
Alright, I got you back now. I think I've got you back. Now it's still acting up on me. God. Two computers in there both going nuts here. They just don't like me and JB talking to each other, I guess. Trying to get that call
I'm
back.
sorry, but I did not hear you press at least 4 digits of your PIN number. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please
Alright.
Over to Dave. He's up and ready to go,
It
guys.
appears you're calling back into a live show. We're reconnecting you now.
Alright. Okay, I got everything back up, I think. Incredible. How
What's
about
going
you?
on?
Okay, I got you, JB. There's fusion centers are just interfering. I guess they get upset when we start talking about taking our ammo back or taking our country back. So I've got you back up now on both of my computers here. And I've been having trouble all day on my computer, so my apologies in advance, folks. The things are heating up. They are afraid of us, and this is what the Alex Jones out there. I want to talk about that. A lot of the people that I've had on my show and that I like, let's just for instance, Larry Pratt and Sheriff Richard Mack. I thought Sheriff Richard Mack was trying to do the right thing by organizing the sheriffs. He did the right thing with the Brady bill. I knew him while he was still a sheriff, and I've been and talked with him and had him on my shows many times. Same thing with Larry Pratt. But recently, when Poker Face, when Paul Topetti had his Freedom Palooza over there in Philly, in Pennsylvania, the Sheriff Mack and Larry Pratt wouldn't come over there because he was talking about the Jews. And of course, I just had John Kaminsky on my show yesterday, and we get all that. Well, you know, all the Jews aren't bad. I've got friends that are Jews. I know somebody that's Jewish. And that ain't the point. You know, I know criminals that are white. I know criminals that are, you know, good down home Texans or Americans. But that don't mean they're all bad. And you know, but if you're supporting, whether you think yourself as a Judeo-Christian, whether you're a follower of John Hagee, you know, what about that? I mean, why wouldn't Larry Pratt come to talk to a bunch of patriots? Why is he protecting the Jews? What is the situation there? I mean, have we just been propagandized so much? Because even Jews, even Benjamin Friedman, who was a Jewish historian, said in my first magazine there that this whole Judeo-Christianity, the Jews who say they're Jews, the so-called Jews is what he puts it, they've been running the biggest scam on Americans for the last 100 years, trying to pass them off as somehow being related to Jesus, somehow being related to the Israelis. Genetically, they're not. What about that? How do we distinguish who the bad guys are here when even the good guys have been brainwashed, have been programmed?
Well, we have to ask, because when it comes to guns, Larry Pratt or NRA or whoever sets himself up or themselves up as spokesman for guns. We should realize by now that there's only one main reason for guns, and that's self-defense. And the main self-defense we need to be thinking about is against the federal government, or any government aspect. Cop. Every cop is your deadly enemy. Why? Because every cop has the license to kill. Every cop is a 007, James Bond, license to kill, legally. And when they kill, nothing happens to them.
Yeah, it's still breaking up a little bit there. Got you.
Until it blows over. Hmm?
Go ahead. You go ahead. Now it's back. Everything's back. Sound just went away for a second.
Well, I say, when a cop kills a citizen, a civilian, he goes on paid administrative leave for a little bit till it blows over, and then they put him back on the street where he can kill again and again and again and again. So if anybody done business he or they don't talk about using the guns as the revolutionaries in our history used them to overthrow tyranny. That's the only real purpose of these things. If you got tyranny, then you got crime, and then you got to use your guns for, to prevent crime against you. But if there's no tyranny, then there's very little crime. It just goes hand in hand. And they has been involved in every single piece of anti-gun legislation from the get-go. If it weren't for the NRA, we probably wouldn't have the National Firearms Act of whatever that was, 34 or 37, whenever we lost the right to have machine guns and sawed-off shotguns and all that. Are we on board here?
Yeah, I still got you on one computer. Wolf Spirit, we lost that on the second computer, trying to bring that back up. So it's they're really messing with us today. Like I said, my computer, I've rebooted it half a dozen times, 2 hours before the show. So they've been really trying. And Wolf Spirit is down, so for the moment, but we're still recording.
So the test is on the gun deal is to arm us mentally. And the NRA, when I started the militia movement and it started taking off, the NRA, of course, said, no, that's not right. We don't support this thing. Well, why is that? I mean, we found out the whole well-regulated militia thing is a lie. That's a big problem. The Second Amendment is a big problem for us. It never really gave us what we thought it did. The CIA armed the country following World War II when
the CIA guy, Sam Cummings, left CIA and started InterArms in Alexandria, Virginia, in Manchester, England. And he brought in millions and millions of surplus military rifles, pistols, revolvers, not shotguns, but everything that was surplus military from World War II, including machine guns and submachine guns, came in through InterArms, which is a CIA outfit. And then the CIA started handgun control and the National Coalition to ban handguns. That was the CIA.
And incredible here. It's just yeah. Somebody send me one of these Wi-Fi antennas here. Maybe that would work here. Can I can still hear you though, JB. Yeah, we still got one of them up. One. If I didn't have two computers here, we'd really have a problem here. But we're still getting broken up a little bit. My apologies, folks. Just what happens when you get the truth out. And interesting is that Alex Jones, after I had the so-called accident, there wasn't one patriot, not one patriot that had me on the show, helped me get the Free American back out or anything. Why do you suppose? Alright, you suckers. Go back to sleep, Homeland Security, Fusion Centers. We're trying to do a show here.
These fusion centers, it turns out they've spent billions of dollars on nothing. It's just been a boondoggle. I mean, what the hell are they doing? Combining local cops and the FBI. We saw what the fusion centers are capable of with the Brandon Robb atrocity. When the guys came over to his house from Richmond Fusion Center, a combination of FBI, Secret Service, and local cops, and said that he was not under arrest. This is how dangerous these pricks are. They say, you're not under arrest, we're just worried about you. And they took him away in a squad car with his hands cuffed behind him and into a state mental hospital, and then to the VA mental hospital, and then switched him to another VA mental hospital 4 hours away to the west in Salem. And we're about to give him a darn chemical lobotomy when John Whitehead sprung him loose from the cuckoo's nest. But that's what the Fusion Center represents today, is kidnapping, torture, disappearance. That his family had no idea where he was. It took Whitehead 5 days to find him and get a tame judge to cut him loose with a court order. That's what we have to be ready to fight against at the drop of a hat. If you see more than one cop coming in your driveway, you might as well start shooting, because you're going to get the Brandon Robb treatment. You know what Whitehead found out? Remember, we got to say this over and over. When he was in the middle of this, trying to find Brandon Robb and cut him loose, a journalist approached him and said, "Hey, I hear you're looking into civil commitments." Whitehead said, "Yeah, that's true." "Well, you know, I've been investigating this thing, and I found that just in this state of Virginia, every year, 20,000
people are up for civil defense. Some of them get out and some of them don't. And that's what Brandon Robb.
This whole fusion center came about. It came about with Senate Bill, I believe it was 1959. This was the homegrown terrorist bill that popped up, and they created the fusion center from that. That was and basically that's the fusion centers are an extension of what they did during the militia movement with the multi-jurisdictional task force.
Mm-hmm.
I had a captain in the National Guard. I ran into him at a gun show. I gave him a copy of my magazine. He said, "Well, I think you're trying to scare people." I said, "You're the one that's scaring people. We want to know what you're doing." And he took the magazine home with him and then called me up a few days later, met him for coffee, and said, "You know, the only thing wrong with your magazine, Clay, is that you're not publishing millions of them." And this was multi-jurisdictional task force.
Let's look at what happened, though, to Brandon. I mean, what led to this? He was screwing around on Facebook with his brother and his sister and his mother. And they're talking trash about Bush and Obama and 9/11 being an inside job and putting rock and roll lyrics on the Facebook page. So when these thugs showed up at his door, the spokesman was an FBI. Says, "Hey, Brandon, kind of worried about you." He said, "You are? What about?" "Well, you know, what you've been putting on Facebook." And he must have been thinking, Facebook? These guys are here because of Facebook? And he kind of naively tried to schmooze him and explain why he felt that way about things. Local cop knocked his feet out from under him, threw him on the ground, cuffed him, stuffed him in a squad car. And the FBI leans in and says, "You're not under arrest, Brandon. We're just worried about you." So let's be on our guard. If you see more than one cop at your door, you might as well open fire, because it's not going to end well. It was a miracle, a living miracle, that Brandon Robb didn't get a chemical lobotomy, because when he's in his cell in Salem VA hospital, the psychiatrist came into his cell, pulled out a chair, sat down, says, "Brandon, I'm going to have to brainwash you." He says, "You what?" "I'm going to medicate you forcibly." Now, if this doesn't scare the crap out of people, I don't know what would. And that day, he would have had the chemical lobotomy, except Whitehead prevailed and got the court order and got him turned loose. But this happens to 20,000 people a year just in one state. So can we imagine how many times it goes on around this whole country? We never would have known about it. I mean, people listening right now would think, "Oh, I can't believe that. Can't believe that." Well, can you believe what happened to Brandon Robb, an ex-Marine, 27 years old, no guns at home, no guns at all, had no means to defend himself, considered an enemy of the state, taken away. He's taken to a private hospital first. They do a 15-minute psych evaluation on him. There's some quack says, "I want a 30-day evaluation on you." And they send him away to the VA psych ward. And then to another one, just to make sure his family couldn't catch up with him or attorneys couldn't find him. Gave him a little diesel therapy. So I'm saying, look, we can't live like this. We can't allow this to happen. It's gone too far. The federal government is our deadly, deadly enemy and has to be overthrown. It can't be tamed. It can't be modified legally or procedurally or in any safe manner. It can only be overthrown by force and violence, the way our founders overthrew the British tyranny in those days. Now it's our turn. Everybody in between them and us has failed. Done nothing. But now it is so bad and it's so dangerous, we just can't go on any longer without overthrowing this stinking government. And I don't want to be accused of anarchism, because what we have is two governments. If you live in America, you're under two governments. You're under the federal government and you're under the state government. So we can't afford that. And it wasn't meant to be that way back in the original days. We were under the Articles of Confederation, which meant just a loose meeting place for the state governments to get together and talk about some common problems. But that ended after 8 years, and we got put under this monster of the Constitution. The problem is the Constitution. It's not solution. The Bill of Rights was put there to defend us, to protect us from the Constitution. That's what people don't get. We can't afford this Constitution anymore. It has destroyed us. It led to empire, like, immediately, as soon as it was enacted. We got a central bank, private central bank, which has to be protected by a central government. Otherwise, you can't have a private central bank. Nobody will put up with it. You got to have the enforcement mechanism of the central government to back it up and make it the law. So that these private guys, which just coincidentally happen to be all Jews, are licensed to supply us with our own currency at a fee, and they monopolize the lending of credit to the government. The government must be forbidden ever to borrow money. There is no excuse for a government, any government, to borrow money. They can print money and print its own debt-free currency in the proper proportions for commerce and growth, just as it happened in Germany in the 30s. That's what saved Germany. So we can do that too. And Jack Kennedy attempted to do it in 1963, about 7 months before he was killed. He issued over $4 billion in debt-free U.S. notes. Some people, including myself, think that was the real reason he got scragged. But I mean, there were a lot of things that he did that pissed people off. You know, we know that. But debt-free currency was definitely a contributing factor.
I carry one of those bills, the $5 bill. I carry that around in my wallet. Got a red seal on it, says United States note on it, printed in 1963. And that's the first thing that the Jew, Lyndon Baines Johnson, or at least the Jew protector, the friend of Israel, the man that gave the orders to turn the backup away from the USS Liberty, and the man that's who recalled all of that debt-free money from Executive Order 11110 that Kennedy issued. He recalled it on the plane going back to Washington. That was his first act as president, and then of course he sacrificed 58,000 of my brothers in Vietnam. Oh, but
Yeah.
weren't those Vietnamese farmers a real threat to us? Is that why we sprayed them with Agent Orange and our own troops with Agent Orange and tried to destroy all of their crops? Were they a threat to the United States? No more.
You know, the United States is the problem, and here's why. The United States, as I've said several times, put the communists in power in Russia.
They did.
Created the Soviet Union. And at the end of World War II, the United States put Ho Chi Minh
in power in northern Indochina, and in the same year they put Kim Il-sung in power in North Korea. They communized the northern halves of those two countries. That's the United States. You can read a book by Archimedes Patti, P-A-T-T-I, called Why Vietnam? Archimedes Patti was a colonel in the OSS. My uncle was a colonel in the OSS. I'm sorry to report, in Europe. But this guy Patti was sent to Indochina before the end of the war to make contact with Ho Chi Minh, or Nguyen Ai Quoc, or Nguyen Tat Pan. He had several different names. He was a big-time communist. He'd spent nobody in Vietnam or northern Indochina ever heard of Ho Chi Minh, because he'd spent all his time in Paris and Russia. But he was brought back by the Roosevelt gang and put in power. They determined that at Tehran in '43 that Ho Chi Minh was going to take over, and Ho Chi Minh became a U.S. intelligence agent during the World War II and made his reports to the OSS at the Texaco office in Hanoi. And so Archimedes Patti and his OSS guys, I think they were called DEER teams, they went over to Hanoi and explained to Ho Chi Minh that from now on he was going to be the leader of northern Indochina, and he was supported by the Americans, just as Kim Il-sung was supported by the Americans in North Korea. And a few years later, 1949, America installed Mao Zedong as the leader of China. We got rid of our ally, Chiang Kai-shek, gave Mao Zedong and his communists all the captured Japanese weapons, and disarmed Chiang Kai-shek's people, the nationalists. In fact, the Congress was so alarmed at this in 1949 that they sent a big freighter towards Vietnam, towards China, to give the nationalists some more weapons. And George Marshall, who had been chief of staff, the Army chief of staff under Roosevelt during World War II, he became Secretary of State under Truman, and he bragged. He said, as chief of staff, I armed 110 nationalist Chinese divisions, and now with the stroke of a pen, I disarm them. And he ordered that ship laden with guns and ammunition. He ordered it sunk in the Bay of Biscay, or anyway, somewhere over there on the way to China. So they never got the guns, and they had to split for Taiwan. It's called Formosa in those days, and set up the Republic of China on this tiny little barren island called Taiwan. But within 20 years, it developed the #4 GNP in the entire world, which is pretty remarkable. And yet the communist Chinese over in the mainland, they just went into degeneracy, degradation, mass murder, and suffering under the communists, which we installed. Again, we always install the communists, and then we fight the communists and never manage to beat the communists, you know. But it's very lucrative for the so-called defense contractors during the so-called Cold War that you mentioned a little bit ago.
Now, I want to go back just a second. You talked about Brandon Robb, and they tried, that is exactly what they tried to do to me. They arranged the accident. They tapped the phones. They knew exactly where I was going to be. They knew exactly what I was riding. They set up the accident. And once they got me to the hospital, they said, the ambulance driver said, man, this guy fought us all the way. Didn't want to get on the stretcher, didn't want to get in the ambulance. That meant I was still conscious. That meant I was still working. But once I got to the hospital, I have no memory of 3 months in 3 hospitals until they took me off of the drugs. When they finally took me off of the Halcyon, the Haldol, the Valium, and the morphine, and I let a nurse see my medical records, and she was horrified. She says, "My God, they tried to kill you. They're never supposed to mix these psychotropic drugs. They're not supposed to mix those. Their only mistake that they made was trying to overdose an old biker. And they wanted long-term care. They make sure he takes these drugs. Make sure he takes these drugs. You need to get guardianship." They compromised my family. They told him, "Oh, he may never be right again. You know, you need to do this. You need to do that." They were trying to lobotomize me with their drugs. 4 months in the hospital, $750,000 hospital bill for 3 broken ribs, folks. But, you know, that's, I almost expected that. It's a war, but I lost my wife of 24 years over that. Well, those doctors saved your life, Clay. No, ma'am. They tried to kill me. They tried to kill me. There was no reason for me to be drugged for 3 months for 3 broken ribs and a broken collarbone.
Okay, well, we got your case. We got Brandon Robbs. We got 20,000 a year in Virginia of these civil commitments and attempts to kill, and I mean, a lot of them disappear, so we don't know what happened to them. So I was in communication with John Whitehead the other day, Brandon Robbs' attorney at the Rutherford Institute in Charlottesville. I said, my question is, what will Brandon Robb do the next time? Or what, if he had it to do over again, what would he do? I know he doesn't have any guns, and it's tough to kind of compute this idea of an ex-Marine not having any guns, but that was the case and may still be the case. I'm not sure why that would be, but okay. But my question is, what would he do if he had it to do over, knowing what was going to happen to him, what should have happened to him, what almost happened to him? He nearly got his brains fried permanently. He nearly lost his mind because of what they were going to do to him. And what did he do? I mean, what did the guy do to deserve a lobotomy? He didn't do what you did. He hadn't really been protesting government that much, maybe a little bit on Facebook. But what do these 20,000 people do every year in Virginia to get picked up? So now we know what happened to you, Clay. We know what happened to Rob. We know what happens to all these people. Are we going to let it happen again? Now we're on notice. Is Boston going to let this atrocity happen again? Or I say no. I say, you see more than one cop at the door, you might as well start shooting, because they're there for a dirty, stinking purpose.
What has to happen here, one of the problems with me is I was alone. I mean, I had no backup. I had nobody working with me. Had other than my sons at the time, and they were alienated. So if we did this neighborhood by neighborhood and expanded, you've got this in your program here. Neighborhood watch. If the neighbors were watching out for each other, and that's kind of what I've always done. If you had a problem, if somebody was trying to, break into your house, you could call me up and I'll be there with my gun in a minute.
Yeah, that's what we got here in our neighborhood. We have a group here. We've sworn a holy oath to come to each other's defense, regardless of the threat. And the local, everybody knows it. So nothing happens here because we're ready. We're all on hair trigger. We don't give a damn. We're ready to rumble. The feds know it. The locals know it, and they leave us alone. So we've, I gave that speech in February. Said there's not going to be any warrantless home invasions here. There's not going to be any roadblocks. We're going to kill you if you try it. The sheriff got upset, and there was a big hullabaloo, but they leave us alone. And you just got to be ready to rumble. And if you are, nothing's going to happen. But if you aren't, well, you get the Brandon Robb treatment. You got to be ready and willing to drop the hammer right now, at the drop of a hat.
This is kind of why the biker community, the bikers, have been demonized and painted by Hollywood to be a threat, because we organize, and if you picked on one of us, you picked on all of us. And I'm sorry, they were clubs, not gangs. They were clubs, but they were clubs of like-minded people. And we didn't go out and harass nobody, but you didn't want to fuck with us either.
That's what you got to have. That's survival. We're under the law of survival. There is no law in this country. The law is a Jewish plot to destroy us. The law only applies to us. It doesn't apply to them. It doesn't apply to the cops, the feds, the Jews, the big-time racketeers. It applies to us. So I say no more law. Don't try to work within the law. Don't try legal remedies, paper airplanes, silver bullets. Silver bullets have all been fired. Paper airplanes have all been flown. They don't work. The judges have nothing but contempt for us. They find us guilty regardless of our wonderful legal arguments, and they make us appeal. And they make us appeal again and expend all our time, energy, and money. It doesn't work. Forget it. It's useless. It's not even honorable. Shouldn't even try it. Forget the legalistic crap. We're under the law of the gun. Fact is, we got more guns than they do. And the ones they've got, we paid for. So we want them back. They can't be trusted with those guns. They can't be trusted with those MRAPs and the bulletproof vests and the drones and whatever else we bought for them. We are the boss. We pay the bills. We buy all this crap for them. We want them back.
And they send all of our money overseas. Why do we support every communist country out there, every petty dictator out there with foreign aid? Why do we do that? I mean, isn't that our money? Why are they just giving it away to any regime that allows a central bank to come in? The only countries that we're at war with are the ones that don't have a central bank. The only ones that we try to demonize don't have a central bank. In Iceland, let's talk about Iceland for just a second, because they just kicked the bankers out of Iceland. They put them in jail. They put the bankers in jail, and they bailed the people out. And they kicked their government out, too. I mean, the only mistake, I think, the million bikers that showed up in Washington, D.C. was that they didn't roll right into the Congress and arrest all the congressmen and charge them with treason. And, hey, you only need 12 men to have a jury trial and one honest judge, which may be pretty difficult to find. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, somebody wrote me the other day, saying we got to arrest everybody. I said, well, I mean, I didn't have time to respond yet, but in my mind, I said, we can't arrest anybody because who do we turn them over to? They have to be killed. They've identified themselves as our deadly enemies. They've gone along with everything that Bush and Obama have done to us, not to mention all the clowns before those guys. The Patriot Act. Now, I see Sensenbrenner, is is saying, "Oh, Clapper lied, and the NSA is going way beyond what I designed with the Patriot Act." Sensenbrenner wrote the Patriot Act, and now he's saying, "Oh my goodness, it's been used for bad purposes." Well, Sensenbrenner ought to be hanged for giving us the Patriot Act. What the hell is that? No more Fourth Amendment. He killed the Fourth Amendment with the Patriot Act. And then, but now we got NDAA, we got the Military Commissions Act, we got the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we got all this crap coming down on us, crap storm. We can't arrest anybody because we can't turn them over to crooked cops and crooked DAs and crooked attorneys general. They can only be killed. We can't support them. We can't feed them. The prisons have to be shut down. They're all private prisons now, or, half and half private, half federal and state. They ought to be shut down. They're all there. Well, most of the people in there have done nothing.
Ayn Rand had it absolutely right in Atlas Shrugged. She said the government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make us into criminals. This is what the drug laws are about. The only answer to this is abolish all the laws against victimless crimes. If there ain't a victim, you don't have a crime. We need to close, you're right, we need to close the prisons down. We've had 50 million people arrested for what was our #1 cash crop in America. Hemp was our #1 cash crop. I don't care whether you smoke it or whether you eat it. It's the greatest food antioxidant there is. And they stole it from us. They stole it. Why is it you can grow it in China, you can grow it in Russia, you can grow it in Canada, you can grow it in Mexico, and you can't grow it here? 10,000 products made out of it, and we got to buy it from Red China? My God. If a man with a badge can walk up and say, "Whoa, what's that in your pocket?" "Oh, you're going to go to jail. Oh, you're going to do some time." Then you live in a police state. You don't have any freedom because they can plant anything they want, man. They stop you, they look in your car. "Whoa, look what I found under your seat." Bullshit, I didn't have anything in my car.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's why you can't allow a search either, because what the hell? They plant evidence all the time. It's a standard police procedure. So no, we can't compromise with these clowns anymore. Can't pretend that they mean well. They don't. I mean, a cop has to get out of the business. He's got to find a productive way to make a living and stop living off us and bossing us around with guns that we bought. We got to change the whole mentality here. They don't have any right to do this. We're taking away that license we've given them.
I wrote about this 45 years ago. I got put in prison the same way. Boy, if you go to trial, you could get 99 years for having that marijuana. So I took 7 and I wrote 2 books in the Texas State Penitentiary. And one of them was about this country when they abolished all laws against victimless crimes. And it's exactly what I've said over and over again on my show. Tear down that wall between us and Mexico. Replace it with tables. Let the Mexicans, let the Peruvians, let the Colombians bring anything they want up, lay it on the table, pay a duty on it, and let any American come there and get it. Why should we pay $50,000 a year to a for-profit prison to keep people in there for something they had in their pocket or had at home? There's just no reason for that. And it's slave labor. You get to work for IBM while you're there in that prison. Or Microsoft.
For Bill and Melinda Gates now. They own these private prisons. You got to shut them down. There are some pretty salty dudes, but they need to be out on the street and subject to frontier justice. We don't need this lucrative prison system. We can deal with criminals. We can deal with them on the street. If they do something bad, you kill them. That includes guys in the blue or guys in the red, whatever the uniform they're wearing. We take care of that. But we can't farm this out and make them, like you say, slaves. It cannot be. It's universities for crime. You send them to these prisons, and that's where they learn to be better criminals.
Well, somebody asked me, and I think this is, somebody just said this in a laundromat to me the other day. Well, you know, isn't marijuana, that's a gateway drug. That's a gateway drug. I said, well, absolutely. If you got to buy it from a drug dealer. And the drug dealers you're buying it from is the CIA and the Mossad. They're bringing all the drugs in here. So it's easy to pick out who you want to put in prison. You sold it to them.
I'll tell you what the gateway drug is. The gateway drug is alcohol. That's the real problem in this country, is alcohol. I'm not a prohibitionist. I don't believe in any kind of prohibition. But alcohol is poison. It pickles your brain, and there's just no getting around it. It destroys lives like there's no tomorrow. It's the main problem. It always has been. But we just have to be more in control of ourselves and stop indulging in these destructive habits. You know, we got to just jack up our ideas.
Well, like I said, I wrote books about that. Hopefully I'll be able to finish them after 45 years of research. I'm convinced that I was right 45 years ago when I wrote about victimless crimes being abolished in all but 4 states. That's the way I set it up at the time. And just contrast, so it was a contrast. In these 4 states, you could get pulled over and put in jail for having a little bit of pot in your pocket or in your car. And in 46 states, nothing happened. You were allowed to go anywhere. If you hurt somebody, if you ran over somebody, then you paid for it. One way or another, you paid for it. But to commit no crime, but you got all these people sitting around, well, yeah, we need to put them in prison, we need to put them in jail, but the drug dealers are your presidents, Bush, Clinton. They brought the drugs in. They organized Operation Watchtower. They brought the drugs in, and they did it so they could let their private police forces, let their police forces make slaves out of you guys.
Yeah, who was the biggest drug dealer in America? It was Oliver North and Bill Clinton and George Bush, bringing the drugs into MENA and distributing cocaine like it's never been distributed before in this country. They're the criminals. And Oliver North, you know, CIA son of a bitch, that Terry, what's his name, that wrote the book Compromise, Terry Reid.
Terry Reid, yeah, friend of mine.
He never knew Oliver North's real name. He knew him as a guy named John Cathy with the CIA. And he didn't even know who he was until he saw him on television in '87 in the Iran-Contra hearings. He said, my God, that's John Cathy. No, it's Oliver North. But he was running cocaine with Barry Seal for Ollie North for years, and Bill Clinton for years. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, one of the people.
Just by the greatest of coincidence, it was Oliver North. You know, I read this book. There's a pamphlet back in about 86, called Concentration Camp Plans for U.S. Citizens by Bill Pabst out of Houston, a lawyer. I had this around the house for a couple of years. I didn't even look at it because it's too sensational looking. The barbed wire, you know, on the cover. Concentration Camp Plans for U.S. Citizens. I finally decided to read it one day. I thought, I better look at this. Oh my God, he identified the whole FEMA concentration camp program, and he'd written it in '76. It was part of a lawsuit he'd made against Gerald Ford and Cheney and Rumsfeld and all those bastards from the Ford days. So I called FEMA headquarters in '86 asked him about it. I got the spokesman, Russell Clanahan. I said, hey, I got this pamphlet here, concentration camp plans for U.S. citizens. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, he said, we don't have any concentration camps. Oh, you don't? No. Well, this book here, this booklet says you got like 12 of them. And I read them off. No, he said, we don't. I said, what about this Operation Garden Plot? What is that? He said, well, Garden Plot is an Army operation. Really? It says here it's a FEMA operation. No, it's Army. Call Captain Ross at the Pentagon. He'll tell you. Captain Ross? How do I get a hold of him? Well, I'll give you his number. Okay. So I called Ross at the Pentagon. This is a long, drawn-out process to get either through to FEMA spokesman or to Army spokesman. But I finally did. And Ross came on the line. He said, what do you want? Yeah, I was talking to Clanahan over at FEMA about Operation Garden Plot. He said, that's a FEMA operation. Yeah, I said, that's what I thought, you know. But he told me it was your operation. No. Well, what about Operation Cable Splicer? I said, wait out. So he came back a minute later. He said, we have no comment on Cable Splicer. Yeah, I said, that's like the state version of Garden Plot. I told you we have no comment on Cable Splicer. Oh, okay. So I called Clanahan back at FEMA. Hey, I said, I was just talking to Ross, like you said, about Operation Garden Plot. Yeah. And he says it's your operation. He kind of chuckles and says, do you know what FEMA does? Well, I said, you manage emergencies. He said, FEMA is the custodian of expired authorities. Wow, I said, you know, I know what those words mean separately, but when you put them together like that, I don't quite get that. What now? Well, he said in the early 1950s, there were many acts passed, like the Defense Manpower Act, Defense Manpower Resources Act, and he named a few more. Yeah. Well, they've expired. Oh, and you are the custodian of expired authorities. That's right. So saying you have all these expired authorities under you? Yes. Well, they're expired, though. But I just see that they might be able to come back to life somehow. That's right. Well, how would that happen? He said, well, under a declaration of national emergency, back to life. It would, wow. I said, holy mackerel, that would make you very powerful. He said, what else? I said, well, I guess that's it. So a year later, in 1987, Oliver North was on the stand, and the Miami Herald wrote this big piece about Oliver North suspending the Bill of Rights and rounding up people in concentrations. Holy mackerel. Somebody said, hey, man, that's what you were talking about last year. Why don't you call FEMA back and ask them about that? Okay. So I called Clanahan back. Yeah, I said, this is Campbell, California, from last year. He said, no, I don't. Well, I was asking you about Operation Garden Plot. Oh, yes, I do remember that. What do you want? What do I want? I said, the Miami Herald says that you, FEMA, and Oliver North were working together to suspend the Bill of Rights and put us in the concentration camps that I was talking about last year. He said, well, I don't handle these questions anymore. Another man does. I'll have to have him call you. Okay? So the next day, I got a phone call from a Bill Makeda, M-C-A-D-A, Makeda. He said, hey, Mr. Campbell, speaking. Bill Makeda here with FEMA in Washington. Oh, yeah. You have some questions? Do I have some questions? I said, Bill, the Miami Herald
says that you and Oliver North were planning to suspend the Bill of Rights and put us in camps. He said, I'm the one that handled the Miami Herald. Yes, sir. So it's true. No, I'm not saying that. I did talk to the Miami Herald about it. Oh, so it's not true. Well, sir, I'll tell you this. Ollie North and his people from the NSC were here quite a bit between 1982 and 1984. Yes, sir, I'll tell you that. So it is true, Bill. I'm not saying that. Okay. Now, he said, as far as detention camps are concerned, and I hadn't actually mentioned detention camps to Bill McCaden, just to Clanahan, but Clanahan obviously gave him my dossier from the year before, so this is what this guy wants to talk about. It's what he's concerned about. So he's going through this list. So he said, we don't have any detention camps. Oh, you don't? No, sir. Well, he said there is the one in Wisconsin, the one in Kentucky, and the one in Louisiana. Oh, so I thought you said you didn't have any camps. So just the 3. Okay, Bill. I said, I got a list of those 3, and I got a list of about 9 more here, and I read them off. Well, he said, you know, our camps are for the Mariel boat-lift Cubans. Yeah. Well, you know, those people are crazy. What are you going to do with them? You got to put them someplace. I said, well, Bill, I'm not concerned about the Mariel boat-lift Cubans. I'm concerned you're going to put people like me in there. Oh, we wouldn't do that. Now, Bill, apparently all your camps are manned right now by the 300th Military Police POW Command out of Inkster, Michigan. And I've checked on that, Bill, and that is the case. He said, what else? I said, that's all, Bill. He said, well, you have a good day. Yeah, you too. So this is back in '87. Now we know there's hundreds of these things, mostly on military bases around the country, where we really can't investigate.
Let's talk about that for a second, because it was reported last year that over 1 million Americans lost their homes when George, I guess it was when George Bush walked out and gave the bankers a couple of $1 trillion, that we'll never be able to pay the interest on that money we gave back to the people that printed the money. But where did all these Americans go? Where did these homeless Americans go? And why are we now getting reports of Americans, of the homeless? They're making it illegal to be homeless, and they want to send you to a FEMA camp? What about that?
Well, we know from reports in the mainstream press that there is a camp in Colorado called Fort Lyon, Lyon, that is taking homeless people from around the country. So right there we have the evidence that this is happening. This is a happening thing. And the homeless are going into FEMA camps. At least one. And we must surmise that there are others that are hidden from us. I mean, you got 20,000 people a year just in Virginia being picked up on civil commitments because they offend somebody politically, like Brandon Robb did. I mean, 20,000 a year, that's a hell of a number in one state. They got to go someplace. Now, Brandon Robb disappeared. He went from Richmond, VA, over to Salem without anybody's knowledge. This is what's happening. That's why I say you can't compromise. You can't go along with the program now. It's too dangerous. They've given us no choice but to kill them if they even look at us cross-eyed because of Brandon Robb. That is our responsibility now. He's put us on notice, just like the Boston people put us on notice. What can happen? There's just no there's no alternative but to fight at the drop of a hat.
So if a bank repossesses your home, kicks you out on the street because you haven't been able to get a job to make your payments, They can just round you up and put you in a FEMA camp, and you're not allowed to leave. You're not just you can't just come and go as you want like you could from a tent city. Can't do that. You got to take their shuttle. If you got to get permission to leave and get on one of their shuttles to even get out of one of these places. I don't see much difference being that and being on parole in some prison.
Exactly. Now, on the subject of this foreclosure you just mentioned, the eviction, again, we've got a program here. And I'm allergic to talking about any problem without attaching a recommendation. Now, last year, the controller for the city and county of San Francisco gave a press conference, which I was lucky enough to see. It was kind of obscure, but he had done a big investigation with some independent auditors who were also by his side at the press conference, and there were quite a few reporters there from San Francisco and around California, Sacramento. He said that he had investigated foreclosures in the city and county of San Francisco in the wealthy areas, in the middle class, and in the poor areas, and come to the conclusion that in like 95% of the cases, it was all based on fraud. The mortgage business is based on fraud. As we now know, these Wall Street firms, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase and all these bunch of criminals on Wall Street have bought up mortgages. They bundled them. They have this expression, they bundled them into investment packages. And then they slice and dice these bundles and sell the slices and dices of people's lives and their homes to investors in Saudi Arabia, China, all over the world. So this controller is an official with the city and county of San Francisco, is about the same thing. He said it is virtually all based on fraud. He said if you've lost your home to foreclosure, there's nothing I can do to help you. It's too late. But if you're in foreclosure, or you're thinking you might be in foreclosure, my recommendation to you is to stay put. These people, these phony foreclosure deals are based on fraud. If there's no chain of title, and there never is with these bundled mortgages, sliced and diced bundled mortgages, no chain of title. They use robo-signing, they use fraud to pretend that they have taken over possession of your mortgage from the original. So stay put, and you can even possibly get your house free and clear because of and he was saying this, because of the vast nature of the fraud. So fraud nullifies all contracts, and there's no statute of limitations on fraud. It's like murder. There's only two things where there's no statute of limitations. So let's present that as to your listeners who might be facing foreclosure for any reason, but it's going to be based on fraud now, especially if it's connected to MERS, MERS, which is Mortgage Electronic Registry Service or System. It's co-owned by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the federal government, and private banks. It's all fraud. So this controller giving the press conference, and the independent auditors came up to the microphone and said, yes, everything he says is true. It's all fraud.
Our national debt, according to V.K. Durham, who controls the Durham Trust, she paid off our every mortgage in America 10 years ago. They just didn't tell you, did they? It's fraud. I mean, exactly what you're saying. It's fraud. Your mortgage has been paid off. The national debt's been paid off. But they ain't going to tell you about it any more than they're going to shut down the Federal Reserve December 15th this year. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah. There probably won't even be any debate on it in the Congress.
I don't think so. I published that in my magazine, but there's also a link on there where they tell you how the Congress got around that. I mean, how the bankers got around that. So, no, they ain't gonna close it down. They're gonna keep bleeding Americans for every dime they can, any way they can. If you're doing 6 miles an hour over the speed limit, they'll take your money.
You know, this foreclosure fraud came up. It was revealed down in Florida. A little old lady down there was facing foreclosure. So her neighbor lady came over one day, so asked if she could look at her paperwork. Now she said, "Who is Acme Mortgage Company?" She said, "I don't know. My loan was with Florida First National or something like that." Well, I wonder who Acme Mortgage Company is. They're the ones that are foreclosing on you. She says, "I don't know. I never heard of them." And that case is what led to Alan Grayson, then a Florida congressman, pretty much leading the way, revealing the vast nature of mortgage fraud and foreclosure fraud. I mean, the mortgage itself is fraudulent. You know, it's based on this fractional reserve. You go to the bank and ask for a loan for a house, they credit your account. There's nothing there except ledger entries came out of thin air. They credit your account. They lend you credit, in other words, which is supposed to be illegal. It's a form of fraud in itself. But that's what the Federal Reserve was authorized to do in 1913, was to lend credit. They didn't have a damn dime in the Federal Reserve. They just had made up crap called credit, which is another word for debt. And the federal government, from then on, started borrowing fake credit from these European bankers, the Rothschild Syndicate. And that's how we got lumbered with this insane fractional reserve system, which is now imploding. And it can only be rescued by this quantitative easing, which is unlimited money and credit being churned out. Except the only problem with that is that we got to pay these bastards interest on this quantitative easing, which makes us indebted in perpetuity. So it has to be totally overthrown, repudiated. There is no debt. It's all fake. We got to repudiate this fake debt and start over with debt-free currency. That will be our salvation, just as it was in Germany in the 1930s.
Yeah, that's another thing. You know, what Hitler did, whether he not necessarily all good or anything, but he saved the German people, and he tried to keep the same thing from happening to the German people that happened to the Russian people, with 60 million of them being killed. And today, why is it the Alex Jones will only talk about Nazis, only talk about Germans, never mentions the fact that the Jews killed 60 million white Christian Russians?
Because Alex Jones, as you know, is a tool of the Jews. He's totally owned by them. His advertisers are all Jews, his bankers, his lawyers, everything. Totally run by the Jews.
Yeah,
that's why he can't tell the truth.
He hasn't spoken to me since I asked him. I said over dinner one day at up in Dallas, when I let him appear at my one of my expos that I had on. I said, Alex, did it ever occur to you that your wife might be your handler? he's never spoken to me since.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got plenty of handlers. Plenty of handlers.
Yeah, that they matter of fact, they arrested me right after that. After I said that to Alex, that night, I got picked up and put in jail in Dallas, or just outside of Dallas, for stealing a generator. We had somebody buy a generator from us and wouldn't allow them to deliver, wouldn't allow the truck in their front yard. And so the company called me and said, hey man, this guy won't pick up, they won't let him deliver the generator, and it's sitting down at the trucking depot, and we're being charged for it. Do something. So I had them deliver the generator to me. I let them in my yard, and I filed a mechanic's lien on him for the money that we had to pay out to get the generator back over after we shipped it to him. So after I mentioned Alex Jones as being controlled by the Mossad through his wife, they picked me up. They picked me up and charged me with stealing a generator in a state that I hadn't even been in before. Pretty incredible, huh?
How'd you beat that rap?
I didn't go back. Didn't go back.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I called the DA and called. I said, look, you know, what is this, man? I've never. How can you charge me with stealing something when it's all legal? I mean, I filed the papers. I filed a mechanic's lien. We sent notices. So there was nothing. They just did it to harass me. I did steal something though. I did steal the nice Harley orange shirt from the jail.
Memento.
Yeah, I took a memento. I hung that on the wall right beside my Joe Arpaio pink shorts and my Sonny Barger signed T-shirt. So it's you know, it's maybe this is part of the key to it. You know, we just have to learn to enjoy the battle. You know, this has been a war for thousands of years. And if you pick up my latest magazine, you'll see that our whole history is wrong. Even the Bible, that only goes back 2,000 or 3,000 years, but we've had civilizations on this planet for 150,000 years or maybe more. So it's you know, if you know, I believe in God. I believe God is what controls, keeps the atoms together, and what designed our DNA and put within us a little spark that we call the soul. And we're given free will. We're given free will and basically amnesia. So we don't know who we are or what we can do. And you got free will, so you can decide whether you want to be good or evil. If you want to lord it over somebody, you want to become a cop and start arresting people for something they got in their pocket, or because they were driving too fast and you were able to get them on radar, you've chosen to be evil. You've chosen to be evil, and I think the people out there that don't want to hurt anybody, don't want to steal from anybody, and want to protect their children, outnumber you all to hell. If we exercise our power, if we start talking to our neighbors, if we can shake off this, what is it? I think it's the 10th plank on the Communist Manifesto, talking about control of education. And it ain't education, it's indoctrination, folks. They want you to be a good slave. Don't rebel against your masters. Whoops, that's out of the Bible too.
Well, we got to think big, because we got big problems. We got to think big for big solutions. And what I'm thinking big on now is this political party, non-voting political party dedicated to the ending of this disastrous federal system and private central bank. We've got to create a sense of identity and camaraderie and communications with each other. Common agreement of purpose, and an organized defense against aggression. That's going to be the irresistible aspect of this, I think, is what we have here in the Valley among our friends. This agreement, this oath to protect each other from aggression. And party members will have this wherever they go. Now, there's going to be there'll be a test. You're asked to do the same thing. But this will make it, I think, irresistible to good people who think they're all alone. They'll find out we're not alone. There's millions of us. I mean, there's a lot of stupid people in this country. There's no question. A lot of very stupid people. But there's 313 million of us, and out of that, if we get 4 or 5 million, we got this thing knocked. Just like the militia movement. The government estimated at the height of the movement in the early 90s that there were like 4 or 5 million guys who considered themselves part of this militia movement. Didn't have a political agenda. But if we can do that again, we'll have this total thing under control, because that's all you need.
All right, now what I've got here on my website is AmericanDefenseParty.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I also have a number 1 on here, /1. Is that our number sign? Is that supposed to be there or not? Is it just free AmericanDefenseParty.com?
I think if you do AmericanDefenseParty.com, it'll make its own little marks after that, but it'll get you to the website.
Okay, I've got that on numerous places on the site, and and I've got it up here. I mean, the plan that you've got here, 3-part plan, folks. It's pretty simple. So maybe even you people that are going, well, all Jews aren't bad. You just can't be. Here's the 3-part plan. The first part is a neighborhood watch. Watch out for your neighbors. Protect your neighbors. And the second part is civilian police review boards. You need to go to your city council, your county commissioners, and say, we want a civilian police review boards. And for the evidence, just go to Google, see how many people have been killed by police that haven't been prosecuted. And the third part, bring the military into the resistance. I've told you folks, anytime a communist regime takes over, they go after 3 classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first because they don't want you feeding yourself. Now they're going after your backyard gardens. 2, they go after the intelligentsia. That's any of us that are smart enough not to be a fucking policeman, or that are smart enough to know what they're doing. And 3rd, they go after the veterans and the military that might still be loyal to the opposition. To their opposition, to the Constitution. If you're a loyal American and you want to look out for your neighbors in your country, don't care what race you are, don't care what religion, Bill of Rights takes care of that. You can hug a tree, you can beat your head against that wailing wall, you can stick your nose in the dirt and your ass up in there. I don't care, just know as long as you don't expect me to get out on my knees with you. That's the American Defense Party. It's linked on my site. Check it out. And get the latest issue of the Free American. Talk about all manner of things, but it's all related. All right, we're out of time. JB, thank you for being with me.
Good. Right on, Clay. Thank you.
God bless you. See ya.
Bye.